as you guys see from the thumbnail, you see those two turds, those two turds sitting atop of that thumbnail, looking like two turds, looking something like Chris Gardocki would make Will Ferrell eat in Step Brothers. Two pieces of white dog shit, Tucker Carlson and Matt Walsh. And these two people have been clamoring about at the mouth, continuing to spew extremely inflammatory rhetoric targeted towards our trans friends and our trans family, and also towards LGBTQ folks. And really having a bad faith, I can't even call it a discussion, right? Because usually when you have a discussion with someone who has an opposing viewpoint as yours, you know, the baseline is that you would hope everybody would be meeting on the same plane of facts. And facts are something that the conservative media spaces, you know, that's optional. Maybe they'll consider a fact or two, but usually they make up their own facts, right? Truth is a malleable thing. It is not something that is finite, which is extremely scary because, again, we're not operating on the same plane as people who are clearly delusional in their own cacophony of a political ideological world, right? So where do we begin? First of all, again, the community of Colorado Springs and truly the whole LGBTQ community across the country and probably by extension across the world continue to be in mourning for those that were killed, right, by Anderson Lee Aldrich. Not his original name, by the way. Heavy.com did a really interesting 5 things you need to know about 22-year-old Anderson Lee Aldrich, who was accused of being the mass shooter at Club Q. And we'll get into some of the reasons why Anderson has some violence in his past, but strangely, it may not reflect on his criminal record. Funny how that works. But let's start with the original 2 pieces of white dog shit that Chris Gardocki made Will Ferrell eat in Step Brothers, Tucker Carlson and Matt Walsh. Can't you guys see how clearly tickled I am with myself about that comparison about those 2 folks? So let's start with Tucker Carlson. And this is a clip. And now listen, I don't even know. It's really impossible to clip Tucker's show because really you could play the entire hour and stop it at different points. Very quickly, easily debunk his unfounded racist rhetoric and transphobic and homophobic rhetoric and keep it pushing, right? But there's so many things to get into. And one of the things I want to play has to do with this obsession that the right wing really has with children's genitals. They are very much invested in the genitals of children. And I'm very confused by that because as an adult, I can tell you there's nothing about children's genitals that interests me. Even if I were a parent, are the genitals clean? Are they unbothered? Okay, then I think everything is fine. But no, Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh, Dana Loesch, all these dickheads are just filling hours of their content platforms talking about kids' genitals. Weirdos, right? So a lot of this I feel is projection, and I'm gonna get into that in a moment because you only talk about shit that's on your mind, right? And again, as much as they are openly wondering about the Balenciaga ads, I am openly wondering why children's genitals are of such an utmost concern to people who are not the parents of these particular children. But I digress. So let's get into Tucker Carlson. This clip that we're going to hear is Tucker fundamentally not understanding medicine and surgery. And instead of calling the gender affirming surgeries that some trans children receive, he calls it mutilation. And, you know, I don't know if in 2022, you go into the doctor, the surgeons, and they give you anesthesia and they give you stitches. I don't know if I'd call it mutilation. And I don't think that I would call a medical procedure approved with the parents' consent, and I would assume at the desire of the child to go forward with this. Mutilation is absolute hyperbole, but I'll let Tucker breathlessly tell you about this latest atrocity that he just can't believe.
Vanderbilt Medical Center in Nashville. A physician there admitted to mutilating the genitals of children because it's a profit center for the hospital. Watch this.
These surgeries make a lot of money. So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. A patient just on routine hormone treatment, who I'm only seeing a few times a year, can bring in several $1,000 because that requires a lot of visits and labs. It actually makes money for the hospital.
It actually makes money for the hospital. Now, if you were a muckraking reporter with a conscience, that would be the story of a lifetime. It's all there on tape. A doctor admitting they're mutilating the genitals of children for money, naming the dollar amounts. How could you pass that up? But everyone passed it up.
All right. So there's Tucker Carlson, trust fund baby Tucker Carlson, Swanson frozen meal heir Tucker Carlson, someone who clearly has a fundamental misunderstanding about the way the American healthcare system works. No one told Tucker Carlson that the entire healthcare system in this country is a for-profit machine. Doesn't matter what procedure you're going in for, Tucker. The hospital is making money. If you get a Band-Aid, the hospital's going to make money. If you use tissues, the hospital's going to make money. If you receive ibuprofen or aspirin, the hospital is going to make money. Now, I know that is appalling, right, Tucker? But if you read something else besides Fox News and the Daily Caller and Red State and whatever hell else, Breitbart, maybe. And how about this? Even if you listened to the actual needs of your viewers, a lot of whom I assume are not financially well off, and a lot of them are probably having their own healthcare problems, given the age and demographic of the Fox News viewer. But it's so funny to me for this dingbat to cherry pick gender affirming surgeries as that's the healthcare outrage that people should be clutching their pearls about. Not the fact that if you have diabetes, your insulin is not free. Thanks, Eli Lilly. The fact that if you have cancer, if you have any disease at all, childbirth is a profit generating procedure for every single hospital, Tucker. This is why I certainly implore liberals and Democrats to be sparing when trying to debate the right, because it's not a good faith argument, okay? He wants to be so upset about the dollar amount that gender affirming surgeries cost. I don't hear him that upset about how much healthcare costs in this country, period. For routine exams, for routine cancer screenings, for a lot of things, medical debt is what's saddling many Americans with burdensome economic situations, yes. But because Tucker is a trust fund phony who has never known a day of struggle or suffering in his life, you think Tucker Carlson's never been able to pay the rent? You think Tucker Carlson ever had to wait in line to get some supplementary assistance for, let's say, the holiday meal season? Never. He doesn't know these working class struggles. He doesn't know these poor folk struggles. And yet, there he is. There he is. Specifically isolating trans children, and for those who provide care, medical care to transgender children, which is very dangerous rhetoric for the right to insist to continue to harp upon this particular group. And we know that African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, currently the LGBTQ population, disabled people generally, get targeted by the right wing, okay? But this brand of rhetoric, I feel, is taking everybody down a very dark road. So, for example, when Trump was running his first campaign, we in America saw a spike in church burnings and church bombings across the South, right? A number of prominent Black churches went up in flames. Guess who set the flames? By and large, there were some exceptions. So with this latest attack on Club Q and this mass shooting that killed 5, being executed by a person who, at least peripherally, has relationship to this kind of rhetoric. Anderson Aldrich is the grandson of former California Assemblyman Vogel, who recently lost his campaign earlier this month, but he was a big MAGA supporter. And when you support the MAGA rhetoric, the racism, the homophobia, the transphobia, the anti-women rhetoric, the anti-abortion rhetoric, all those things go hand in hand in hand in hand. And so without a doubt, even though it hasn't come out outwardly that the Club Q shooter was influenced by the likes of, say, a Tucker Carlson, please, it is not beyond the shadow of a doubt that that is entirely possible. But let's not stop with Tucker. There's another turd to get into. Matt Walsh. Y'all know Matt Walsh. And if you don't know Matt Walsh, I'm very happy for you. You're better off not knowing Matt Walsh, because the height of the mediocrity that just allows to be is given tremendous platform in this country still continues to hurt my head. It really gives me a headache from time to time. But this clip is maybe a week or so old. But when Matt Walsh appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, oh my gosh, 2 bright bulbs trying to outdumb each other. Hate to see it. So Matt Walsh was on the Joe Rogan Experience, and Joe Rogan fact-checked Matt Walsh about his inaccurate, wildly misrepresented numbers about a number of American children receiving hormone therapy to transition into their preferred gender identity. And watch Joe Rogan fact check Matt Walsh, and Matt Walsh just, sometimes I get things wrong.
How many people have had this done?
Depends on what. I don't think we have exact numbers, but it's, if we're talking about the drugs, it's, I mean, millions.
Are you talking about hormone blockers?
Yeah.
Millions of kids have been on hormone blockers? Really?
I'm sure someone's going to fact check me on that, but my guess is that we're into the millions now at this point. Yeah, that would be my guess.
It says over the last 5 years, there were at least 4,780 adolescents who started puberty blockers and had a prior gender dysphoria diagnosis.
It says it's kind of undercounted, but
that would be a big undercounting.
Less than 1,000 people a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess, hundreds of thousands at this, but I could be wrong.
Million sounds great.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't usually find Joe Rogan funny, but that made me laugh. Yeah, millions does sound great, doesn't it? When you're just talking a bunch of bullshit and you just throwing anything to the wall and hoping that it sticks. Yeah, the billions of children are on puberty blockers. Come on now. Fact check me if you want. It's all shits and gigs until somebody walks into the gay space and starts shooting. It's all shits and gigs with the anti-Semitic tongue-in-cheek jokes until somebody walks into the synagogue and starts shooting. It's all shits and giggles until some 19-year-old asshole, Peyton Genderson or Genderon, out there in Buffalo, walked into the Tops Friendly Supermarket and killed 10 black people. Yeah, it's all laughs and giggles until the AR-15s come out. And this is the problem, because in America, the AR-15s are gonna come out. And when you keep putting out this kind of hateful speech, targeted hateful speech, there are a bunch of soft-brained dickheads that are gonna grab their legally owned and legally purchased guns and go do something about it. And this is the problem, because all of these attempts by the right wing to collect and to police trans people and to police black people and Hispanic people and Asian people, I mean, it needs to stop, okay? Because there is no question here who are the primary drivers of domestic terrorism in this country. It is this demographic that hold these particular set of political ideals, and they don't want to address that. They would rather, and I say they, Tucker Carlson, they, Matt Walsh, they, them, all of them over there, they would rather inflame their audiences with all these wild tales about how crime is going up and shoplifting is on the increase, and all of these problems are happening because Joe Biden is in office and the left is taking over. However, we have had more mass shootings continue to increase in this country year after year after year. And even though I am loath to listen to what law enforcement has to say, statistically, the FBI confirmed that the overwhelmingly majority of domestic terroristic crimes that have been happening in America are committed by right-wing extremists. Did I say right wing or white wing? because they could be interchangeable. They could be interchangeable because this is it's a real big issue here. And I hope that for those of us, well, really y'all, those of y'all who may have either racist family members or homophobic or transphobic family members, and you may be getting together with these family members over the holidays, it's time for you to start checking these motherfuckers, okay? I'm talking about check the shit out their ass. Now, I understand that your mom does not want you to make a scene. Your mother and father have asked you, don't say nothing to Uncle George and Aunt Jenny, because you know how they are, okay? But this is the problem. Uncle George and Aunt Jenny don't get checked ever, okay? They are allowed to spew that those Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh talking points. They're allowed to rehash it, and the rest of your, I won't say anti-racist, but perhaps non-racist family members, they just kind of roll their eyes and be like, oh God, there George goes. No, you have to nip this shit in the bud, okay? Because I, as a Black person, I cannot come to your holiday dinner table and tell Uncle George that he's a piece of shit, okay? I would like to. If I'm invited, I may actually do that. But no, it's incumbent upon you all, if you are non-Black, especially non-Black, if you are non-Black watching this, and especially if you are white, it's you got to start collecting your folks, man, because this is what happens when unchecked white supremacy continues to reproduce itself. Okay, that young man in Colorado Springs, the one who shot up the Buffalo supermarket, the one who shot up the 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois, these are young kids. These are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. This whole notion that, hey, racism and homophobia and all this shit, that it'll die out when the old racists and homophobes die out. Wrong. That is wrong.